All right, Saturday morning. Hopefully you got your coffee like we do here at the show. We appreciate everybody coming back around, tuning in every Saturday morning to the show, if you would, the Collectors Radio Show or podcast, I guess they would refer it to. So, thank you for being here. Because without you, we wouldn't be broadcasting or doing the show. All right. Ooh, if that doesn't heat you up and cool you down at the same time. All right. Well, we got some comments to read. We got an interesting comment, and that's kind of why we brought out some stuff to talk about and everything. Also, I guess we go through some stuff that, I have in the inventory a little bit on aiding and helping with certain things that, that you might have come across in your endeavors of doing stuff. Okay, so we got some comments here. Again, no particular order that we read the comments in. They just kind of appear, and we just kind of look up the last show on a plain, computer here and read it through. We're not even signed in or anything. So if your comment was not read or didn't appear when we did this, there could be multiple reasons. Do apologize. All right, and we always keep it pretty, we don't want to. We're not going to read anything crude or political here. It's not what we do. All right. So first one up, Jerry Johnson. We appreciate Jerry. You're always there. I do miss Mr. Holster and Jake, his dog. Another fantastic radio show. We appreciate that. Yeah, I think we all miss Mr. Holster. His personality, his stories, his shenanigans, and things that he would do. He was just another one of those wonderful fellas up there. Way up north near the Canadian border, as he used to say. What a fantastic personality he had, and his channel was great. I love channels like that where you tuned in. Anytime he uploaded something, you never knew what he was going to do. You never knew what video content or what he was up to. So that's what I really liked about his stuff. You just didn't know. I mean, it could be all kinds of stuff. Being that he had this long going thing with Jack and playing poker with me and losing my Colt Diamondback to him. Those of you that remember those escapade and shenanigans and stuff, so it was good fun. We always played things back and forth. Mr. Holster and I had this thing going on that because I forget what it was. I think I spray painted a 1911 or something, and I'm not one that turns my nose up on rattle canning your stuff. I'm big on doing things like that, painting things and altering things. That's the thing is I've altered things of mine basically to make it my own and be different. It's different. It's not just like the next one on the assembly line that looks like that one. That's kind of why I like to do those things. It kind of puts a little bit more of my personal touches on it. It's wonderful when I got it because it's like, that's what I wanted, but then I add a few things and tweak it a little here and there, and it basically becomes something that I wanted or put my touches into it. So that's kind of like that too. So, but yeah, the whole, we go back and forth over his shows, my talks and his talks, and like, who the heck would rattle can their stuff, things like that. So anyway, Mr. Holster is greatly missed by a lot of us, and a lot of us still go back through and watch his content and check him out, and he's there. And I actually got a wonderful gift by the Crazy Scotsman, where I had I received from him on whatever, those cards that hold all the stuff of all of his content. So I cherish that greatly because that's his life, and anytime you want to and his channel's still up. So that's what's really wonderful about doing this type of things, is because any given moment we can always, I feel like videos, movies, and stuff like that is like a time capsule. You can always go back and turn it on your screen, your TV, and there they are. They're alive and vibrant, and their personality and all that stuff just comes to life right there in your own living room, your home box office experience. But you know, that's what to me is really neat about something like that. You can go back, if I, you know, all of a sudden I can go back and throw in Key Largo, and there's Bogey, and there's Edward G, and there's Lauren Bacall, big on the screen, alive, and I mean, it's like, you know, you're stepping back in time, and that, to me, that kind of stuff is really neat. That's why I've always, even through my teenage years in high school and stuff. See, in high school, I took a photography class, where we actually developed our film. We shot everything in, what was it, like 35 millimeter or something. We got to learn what shutter speed was, how to do things like focus image here, blur background or reverse, shot in black and white. Learn how to use the thing where you take the camera and the film out of it in the bag, and then you're kind of blindly feeling around there and winding the film up in the little device to get it to transport it into the darkroom and you know, develop it yourself with photo flow and you know, do the whole thing and light capture and then soak it into the solution and hang it up and all that. That was, I mean, that was the coolest thing, and I got to experience that. That was cool because, you know, mind you, when I was in all this in high school and stuff like that, like at least definitely for me, when I was in high school, no kid, none of us had a cell phone. I don't recall anybody whipping out a cell phone in those days when I was there. We had a payphone on campus, and we had soda machines on campus that went dry like by noon. I mean, but this is before they cared about anybody consuming that great amount of high fructose corn syrup and sugar. Just wire the kids all day. But anyway, but that, you know, that was cool, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. I mean, at least I feel like I got to experience that last bit of anything cool that was left before things just changed dramatically. Some say for the best, some say for the worst, I don't know. But anyway, it was good times, it was fun. But yeah, but that's what I mean about this, you know, back to that, you know, anytime you want to see or hear Mr. Holster and his wonderful personality, you can always jump in right there on his channel and boom, there he is, back to life, you know. So that's what's really cool about doing a lot of this kind of stuff. All right, Midway Shooter. Rest in peace, Mr. Holster. I still watch his old videos. See, there we go. Thanks for sharing, and beautiful guns. Yes, we appreciate that. We always like bringing out the iron and talking about certain things and all that. Lion Quest Fitness. Magnum Force was definitely the best Dirty Harry movie. Yes. Followed by The Enforcer. Tyne Daly. You could almost say that's where Cagney and Lacey thing got going. I believe that was it. I believe The Enforcer was before that. Tyne Daly did that. You ever considered a Henry Big Boy revolver with its retro look? And last but not least, to the sunny slopes of long ago. Swig of coffee for the sunny slopes of long ago and all the working stiffs and all the people that have been working and retired and all that. All right. Yeah. You know what? Okay, so the big bore revolver. It's cool that they brought them out. But there again, I'm not really, like, for me, my interest is like, okay, there's no movie connection with it for me. There's nothing in a film that made me go, oh, I gotta have that. You know, there was no magical film that was like made me like, you know, have a connection with it. So, and that's kind of where it is with me with a lot of stuff. I honestly, gotta be truly honest, had no interest in it. I'm not like knocking it. I'm sure it's a great revolver. Henry's a reputable company, but I didn't have an interest in it. It didn't do anything for me. I feel like. I mean, I got an old vintage Smith or something that I can shoot, so I didn't really need to have something like that. So it just, yeah, it didn't really do anything for me. It looks kind of cool. I like the brass backstrap and everything. I've seen some videos on it, but not a whole lot. But yeah, I mean, I just didn't really pick one. I honestly, I don't think I've seen one anywhere. I may have seen one. I don't know, but I would have taken a look at it, to be honest. I haven't seen it. It's kind of interesting when companies come out with stuff like that. You know, it's almost like when they first pop out with something, they first announce something like, hey, we're doing this, look, check it out, and they put it out there and they advertise it. And then everybody goes crazy and you can't get one. And then it's just like a frenzy. Like, you know, when the Python came out in 2020, the return of the Python. Man, I remember watching auctions, and those things where people were paying more for those than they ever, you know, than they did for a vintage one. And during that time, I was still kind of like, whoa, I don't know. I still don't know. Yeah, it looks great, but I don't know what the, you know, I mean, which one, you know, what would you take? Yeah, sometimes you got to let the market calm down. But in the sense for the big boy revolver, I don't recall seeing one. Then again, I wasn't exactly looking for one either. You know, I mean, it looks neat. You know, it wouldn't, you know, but I wasn't driven to buy it. But it does look kind of cool, and it would match if you had one of the Henry lever guns. I don't. But you know, if you had one, it'd be a kind of cool companion to have them chambered in the same thing. Be kind of neat if they chamber them in like something, you know. I don't know if they do. Maybe they do, like something larger. You know, like that would be a neat revolver to chamber in 45 Colt. And that kind of goes back to me, like, you know, 45 Colt, that cartridge. It kind of, for me, it resonates more with like a single action, like an old cowboy gun, which that revolver, that Henry Big Boy revolver, kind of resembles, like, you know, like it still has that old school, like, it's almost like a hybrid of that you know, Wild West to modern double action. In that aspect of it, so that's kind of neat. But that would be a cool one in 45 Colt or something. But because like for me, I never, like, I had like Model 25s, the Smith & Wesson, the big end frame in 45 Colt. It never really did anything for me. That's why I got rid of them. It was just because of that cartridge. It was like that to me. I feel like when I'm messing with that cartridge, I want to have that loading gate and the cylinder and all that. I feel like that's where I want to be, or that lever gun or something. But when I see, you know, and then plus two, when I get the big end frame, the first thing I want to think about is, you know, that Model 29 or something, or 629 or what have you. So, but no, yeah, I mean they're cool. I mean. Like I said, I'm kind of weird. I'm different because I just like, you know, like, why, you know, like, for instance, the Detective Special, one with the floating ejector rod out there. Why would I be having a romance with that thing? Because I love the movie French Connection, and that's what Popeye Doyle carries throughout the whole thing. Even though the one time you see him shoot the thing, it's actually like a Model 36 or something, and then they change it back. It's weird. So, all right. Crazy Scotsman, you said it. If Colt had deviated at all, I think so many fans of the original would have walked away from the new offerings. Yes, they would have. I really think, and I really feel that Colt did their homework on that, and really kind of they were cautious about it. Now I'm going to say this. I know my opinion, my feelings and opinions have been somewhat changing about the vent rib issue. The number, I wouldn't say it's an issue. It's just a change that they did. And I think somebody said it best. Like, look, really, how much are we nitpicking? That 4-inch barrel one to 4 1/4, whatever you want to get down to technicality. Mr. Wikipedia will correct us all. You know, it has the 3. But I think this is one of those things where if you had it in your hand, it may be different. If you actually had it in your hand, it may be different. Because, you know, when I first heard about all the critiques coming out with the polished blue, or, you know, oh, it's not the royal blue. Well, we're really, what rule book, you know, classifies royal blue? I don't know. Because it just, I mean, you know what? Look, the differences between the whatever the bluing, if you want to say it, the royal blue or the polished blue that they did. You know what? My eyesight ain't damn good enough to notice the difference. Maybe you have 20/20 vision, but and really you're splitting hairs at that point. You're really just grabbing onto threads just to, you know. but yeah, so I think that's one of those things where I think I've come to the conclusion where I'm not opposed to picking up a 4 because the extra vent rib is not going to deter me. So that's where I'm standing on that. That's a good comment. I really, I think that was a really good thing to mention. I think they were careful and did all that, and did the offerings. I think they're really absolutely killing it with their snake guns coming out. They're really dominating the market with their name and putting out quality. I really do. I think that's one of the best things Colt could have done. For me, all the romance with all those things, it's wonderful. I just wish they would do the Diamondback, but I think the Cobra is the Diamondback. I'd love to see that Cobra 4-inch 6 shots with the 22 with wood grips. I would love to see that, but no. Nothing else like pinned and recessed. This was Smith's prime time. Yeah, Smith. During the 70s, I think Smith made some of the best revolvers they could have ever done. Those pinned and recessed models for the Magnums were absolutely phenomenal. But then again, there's a lot of Lou Horton ones out there that are really super cool. We'll have to one day talk about the Lou Horton stuff and bring them out and everything and show them, because I think the Lou Horton little shorties were absolutely really cool. All right, Slim Fire. It's always a good morning for me to view your radio show or radio talk video and see the awesome revolvers you have. So thank you. Magnum Force is definitely his best in yours, in my opinion. In my late 60s, so I can relate to what you're saying about riding bikes, watching movies on VHS. Those were the great days and times to grow up. Thanks to JW for doing your talk show, Slim. You're very welcome, Slim. And yes, I'm glad that I'm still. I was like, again, I was at the tail end of a lot of that stuff. I don't know, maybe. It's not just my time when I was there growing up. It was also my upbringing. I grew up in my grandpa's house with my mom, and my grandpa was I remember just I've got photos of me as a wee little child sitting there in the living room with that burnt orange shag carpet with the TV that was a wooden box with the little thing on it you had to go up to and go, and then that would change the channels, messing with rabbit ears and stuff like that. But I literally grew up in the full-blown, true American wholesome sitcom type family. That was my growing up, where, for Christmas time, the coolest thing we got was stuff like bikes and, all that kind of jazz. So, was nothing really electronic in those days. I mean, we didn't really. I remember the coolest thing electronic-wise, if I could remember, was this little it was like a box type deal. It looked like the front end of a car, but it was shrunk. It was only about the size of a small toaster or something, and it had a little shifting knob and it had a wheel, and you turn it on. And your wheel operated a little static figure of a car, and it could move side to side. And on the screen, the road, it was probably just, it was on a loop or something. And you drive it like this. It was a real analog / electronic. But I remember that was really cool. I do recall that. So, but yeah, those are the great days. And that's why I most of the people I hang out with and stuff like that are, in their 60s and stuff. I'm hanging out with people that are 20 years older than me, because that's the kind of stuff that, I have an interest with, and I like hanging out with the people that actually were there. I love hanging out with people like my good buddy, I Carry One. And I love listening to my friend I Carry One. I'd love to get him to tell the stories I'd love to get over there and tape the stories with him of, like, 1970s, and saying, like, look, I couldn't get my hands on a Model 29 because of that damn movie, so, but yeah, I love that, because those guys were really there, and they really experienced that, and that, to me, that's like the coolest thing ever. I love hearing about that. I love, hearing those stories, or listening to those guys, because that was that's the stuff. I mean, I don't care about the latest. Oh, look, what's this? This post, or this, I don't know, stupid 30-second video that they're all grabbing about. I want to go talk to that guy over there that's 65 years old, that could tell me something about one day when his old pickup truck broke down, and or something like that, or the day he went into a Western Auto and picked up a really cool revolver. Let me hear that story. So, all right, Joe P. Swig of coffee for Joe. Good morning, JW. I love my Model 29-10. It's easily my favorite handgun. I don't blame you. I see why. I really want one of those, by the way, Joe. I want one of those newer ones, because I want to be able to, I want to have that old one, or that new one, because the thing about having the old one, don't get me wrong, I shoot my stuff. I go out and I shoot them. But one of the things that I really enjoy about that new Python, like, this is just an example, is I go out and I take it and I run it. And you know what? I ran it so much, it's actually got some wear around the sharp edges of the bluing is actually coming off. And you know what? Okay, if it gets that bad, I buy another one, because they're out there. But I mean, of course you need the, but it would have to get really trashed up. But I'm not going out there and abusing it. But it is, there is something to be said when the modern CNC machines and stuff is stepped in and made something, so I would like to have one. All right, it's easily my favorite handgun. It goes to the range all the time. I'm not embarrassed to admit that I would give it up in a second to own a vintage Model 29 too. As long as I live in Cal, it won't be possible. But it's a happy Saturday when you bring yours out for the show and tell. I appreciate that. That's a bummer that you can't get one over there, or it's too bad there's no way to, I guess, obtain one, or have a shop get one, or something like that. But I wouldn't. I would say this: don't give up your -10. Keep it and get a, and then acquire the other one. But no, the key locksmiths, if you would call it that or whatever, it doesn't deter me. Again, that's not something that bothers me to the point where I'm just like, oh my gosh, get it away from me. The power of, actually, what's funny? I saw recently one of the new Smiths that came out. I can't remember the model number. It was a stainless snubby, I believe a 357 Magnum, and you know what? It didn't have a key lock. Didn't have that key lock on it. Sure, it had the sleeve barrel and all that, but then again, people argue about that. Somebody actually made a comment one time. Dan Wesson's been doing that a long time. All right, but yeah, it did not have a key lock. Interesting, very interesting. Just throwing that out there. Okay, Marshall. Hey JW, love the videos and the big iron. Would you mind sharing how you did the gold infill on the Python? Really sets off the logo. Well, Marshall, that's why I brought out this gun here, this Smith & Wesson. This is a Model 15. I just brought that because that's what I had available to grab at the time. Sean says, is the trigger on a Series 70 Colt 1911 much better than a Series 80? I have a Series 80, and I think it's fine. But I hear many people say it's not, and the Series 70 is so much better. Oh, and nice to see some big revolvers. Yeah, okay. That's another really good comment there, Sean. Okay, here's my take on it. First of all, through my experiences, you know, well over 10 years working gun counters, moving around through them and stuff like that, listening to a lot of stories. There is a downside of some of the I don't know how you would put it. There's a downside of some of the people. Like when you've got somebody that won't admit when they're wrong, that's dangerous. When you got somebody that's just like everything with them is carved in stone, it can't change. Everything they say is law. That's where you got problems, and that's where some of these weird stories come about. And if you kind of look through, you know who's a really good one to kind of fact check some stuff about, definitely about the days of like the M16 when it was issued to Vietnam and stuff like that, is Small Arms Solutions. He does a lot of homework, and he's written a book and everything like that. So he's actually pretty good on doing things like that. He also did a really good thing on the Python, the 2020 versus the old one. That is probably one of the best videos explaining the 2020 Python to the new one, which Small Arms Solutions did. I think his name is Chris. I like him because he's really almost non-discriminative on it. Now he doesn't like the 1911, so I got to disagree with him on that automatically. But anyway, so yes, I've heard that term, Series 70. Oh yeah, you know they always talk about that. I'm gonna tell you something. If you take a Colt, I'm speaking about a Colt Series 80 and a Series 70. If you take the Colt Series 80, and even guys like Hackathorn will say this. The difference, really, if I handed a Series 80 Colt to somebody and didn't tell them it was a Series 80, I swear I can't really tell a difference because it's done right. Colt came up with it for whatever, then they did it right. It doesn't, again, that's not something that deters me. I don't have any problems with buying a Series 80. And yeah, I don't think there's much of a difference. There really isn't. Not that much to make, you know, a stupid amount of difference. Because when you start taking like Colts, I mean, you can take a Colt Series 80 and a Springfield Armory, and you know, because Springfield Armory doesn't do the Series 80 firing pin system stuff like that. Like I got a Ronin. My Ronin's a Series 70. If I shot it right next to another Colt that was a Colt that was a Series 80, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference. Now, if you shot it next to something like a Les Bear, an Ed Brown, you know, something like that, yeah, there's going to be a difference, you know, because that now you're stepping off into something way up there. But I don't really, I wouldn't sit there and say that calls for grounds to totally turn your nose up and, you know, and walk away from it. You know, so, and I've heard that too. I've heard that by many Smiths that, you know, over times, and many people that just, you know, oh, if it's Series 80, absolute garbage, blah, you know, they make all this big noise about it. Really, it's nothing to deter you. It doesn't deter me. If there was a choice, I probably would take the 70 just because of the ease of parts. There's less parts in it because the Series 80 does have the plunger, the spring with the plunger, and then the levers, the two levers, and you got to kind of line those up with the sear and all that if you're disassembling it. Also, speaking of disassembling, any of you that before you do it, if you have a vintage gold cup, vintage Colt gold cup, not the new one. The new one they actually corrected this, thank God. That makes honestly, in my book, that makes the new gold cups better. If you have a vintage gold cup, do not take that sear out, because unless you're prepared, because there is something extremely different about that whole setup. That sear has like a wraparound deal that has this little spring and everything. It's a mess. To put that thing back together, you're going to need a slave pin and a stroke of luck. So just be careful about it. Do some research on it and check it out before you mess with those. But no. Anyway, no, I just to answer that, no. I don't think there's much of a difference. Okay, we're going to wrap the show with Marshall's deal about the inlays. There's many ways you can do it. All right. There's many ways you can put the inlays on. You can see here my Smith has it. You can, with this stuff, I usually use gold. I've used silver. I have silver. My silver looks a little gold. There's a few ways you can do this. You can use those paint pens or those lacquer sticks or whatever. You don't have to go on to like Midway or Brownells or whatever and buy something special. You don't. You can literally go down to your local hardware store and buy stuff that will work. I have got to the point where again, you can use fingernail polish. That's a cheap one in any Walmart or whatever. You just go to or go raid your wife's or your girlfriend's makeup kit. You can use gold or whatever fingernail polish. In a pinch, I think that'll work too. And then while you're at it, grab her fingernail polish remover. So what I chose to use this is modeling paint. I went down to the local Ace Hardware down here that it's a decently stocked Ace, so it has modeling, or it has a model hobby section. I guess you can go to a Hobby Lobby too. But this is just modeling paint. That's what I use now. And you take it and you make sure it's really well done. You can actually thin it out if you want with some acetone. I think I've done that to mine. So I have silver and gold for mine. Take a little brush and carefully paint in there, and just go in through it and paint it. Let it dry and set up. Once it does, the tricky part is removing the excess. That's the tricky part. What I usually do is take like an old T-shirt, but not too. What works the best actually is a patch. Go to your cleaning kits and get a patch, a pretty big one or whatever, a decent sized one. Saturate it a little bit in that fingernail polish remover or acetone or something like that. Don't oversaturate it, just a little bit. Just get it damp with that stuff. Wrap it around something. Like take a shell casing from a 30-06 or something, and of course it depends where the stamping is. Like in this case, you'd have to remove the grips and get in there, So, but wrap that around the casing, the cylinder, whatever, and that's giving you something to go over. Don't go too crazy because it's a little bit of a work in progress, but you're basically taking that and just kind of grab one of these here, and you're just kind of carefully removing, and you're using the reason you're using that casing or something behind it is so that you don't have the material dipping down into the stampings and removing and washing out what you've already done. It may take a couple tries to get good at it, but it can be done, and that's honestly the best way I found to do it. And then this stuff, like when you're using modeling paint and stuff like that, it actually holds up really good. This old one actually may have been done with lacquer from way back. You can actually see some of it where it's washing out a little bit. If the gun, keep in mind, if the stampings on the gun is not that good, or it's kind of hot, like if you get a gun that's been re-blued and they polished through where the stampings were, it's not going to stay as well. It works best when the stampings are nice, sharp, and pristine there. Don't overdo it with this stuff. It's very easy to lose control and start doing everything with it you have, and when you start doing that, everything starts looking kind of stupid. Pick and choose what you do it for. As you saw, I did it with my Python just to set it off a little bit, and it really does. It makes it just boom, So, but that's the way you can do it. It's a real easy thing. It's no trade secret or anything like that I'm aware of. I learned about it from an old time smith and gun seller that I was buying old vintage guns from. But like I said, don't overdo it. You can really overdo things like that and kind of lose control. But my recommendation would be modeling paint. Just, it's easy, it's available, it's not that hard to find. You can go to any of these hobby type deals and pick it up. You can get a small brush and actually take a small brush and dab it in and be more careful about overdoing it and spilling it out everywhere. And then it's easier to remove. And like I said, I use fingernail polish remover, or acetone or something like that. Just something that you probably have already in your work shed, or you can just go ahead and buy paint remover or whatever they sell. But I like to use. I try to keep things where I like to use what I already have if I have it. And that way it keeps pricing and costs and stuff like that down. And like something like this, these are pretty inexpensive. I think because like I said, Brownells or whatever, they're gonna sell you a lacquer stick, and I think it's like $5, and you got to pay for shipping and everything like that. And really, all that is just like a oil based kind of like a putty stuff that you just smear in there and you just wipe it off. And it actually, the problem with that is I've learned over time the lacquer sticks. They take a long time to set up or dry out or whatever it is, but too, like I've noticed too, like when you're cleaning your gun, spraying it down with ballistol or whatever solvents you got, that can actually remove the lacquer right out of there, so it doesn't hold up. I found that the modeling paint and fingernail polish stuff does hold up a little bit better. Over time, I did find that the modeling paint is the best. It holds up longer, it stays in there, and if you ever want to remove it, it's real easy. A little toothbrush and some acetone, scrub it right out, wipe it down, oil it, you're done. And then that's gone. Boom, there it is. Be cautious about the surfaces of what you're doing it on. For instance, something that's parkerized, because it's got a surface. There's texture on the surface of that, if you know what I mean about parkerized stuff. This stuff is going to get into all those little spots, and then you're going to look like you have like a gold glittering dust over the surface of it. So you gotta be careful of that. The reason it works on something like a polished blued gun is because there's nothing on the surface. It's polished. It's it's smooth. So I do recommend, be careful if you're doing something to a parkerized surface, or a surface that has any kind of texture on it. So be careful of that, because it'll turn into a mess. Not saying it can't be done, but it can be a challenge to do it. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's show. Thank you for coming around and tuning in. We do appreciate that. Always enjoy having everybody for the talks. Keep an eye for the future. We will be talking about some other cool stuff that I think you'll enjoy. I certainly enjoy talking about it. I can't wait to show it to you and bring it to you next week.